Today, we are here to give you a new documentary, which is none other than my hometown, Boston. It is not much well known to others, however, it's one of the most iconic province here in Davao Oriental, and it's also my hometown itself. Let us dive in and discuss about this certain place. As I travel beyond the sea walls and moving forward within the docks, I continue to pursue and acknowledge the area as I move forward within the boats. Now, this is one of the most iconic boats that are utilized here in Boston for the fishermen, more particularly in its job itself. And beyond the vicinity of Boston, we can see the Bow Island again. After introducing the docks, I will now continue to introduce to you to the national park. Now, near in the park, we have the National Coast Guard nearby to the seawalls to check out if someone is drowning. Here in the park was what quite of the most important things that innovated after a special typhoon disaster called Bagyong Pablo, renovating the entire area to be quite more beautiful to the environment and a new atmosphere in Boston. Now, here in the park, it was one of the most iconic deer here in Boston. Unfortunately, although it was very innovative, not much of people are here recently due to the amount of starting to decay of blandness and looking pale. Now near in the park, we can see here the giant gymnasium in the town. Along in the park, we can see the playground that was before getting demolished from the old typhoon, which is Typhoon Pablo. This was one of the most iconic park and playground here in Boston. Along with the giant gymnasium itself, and the town wasn't also already been built. Now, as we can see here, is the Boston's municipal office in the town itself. And also the police station. Alongside here is the town's clinical center. Moving forward, we can witness the Boston's church with the Catholic themes alongside with the new innovation of public restrooms. The church design was formidable and continuously upgrading and innovating. The church actually takes me back when I was a kid around very young age, and I grew up with the church itself. And the amazing fact is that although it was demolished during the typhoon, it is becoming formidable and keep innovating with new upgrades in design in the architect of the church itself. Here we can see the first hand of the fishing boats nearby on the sea itself and the coast, the sea walls. Whereas many fishermen used to put nets under the sea and catch fishes. The barangay hall is standing formidable and innovated and also upgraded before. This is the courtyard where most people hang out all the time rather than the national park itself here in Boston. It's quite ironic actually. Ito kasi speed.
Speed naman. Ito.
As we continue to roll over with a fellow friend with a motorcycle, we're about to go to the school itself. More particularly here in the Boston National High School. The view gives me a way back of reminding how I appreciate this place a lot. Walking back home after school is quite very nostalgic for me. When I graduated here, not much of an innovation to start with. Now, as I came back here for the first time ever, a lot of been upgrades so far and innovation. As we can see, the garden, the walls, the buildings, the new mechanics, even the government overhaul, and a lot of identifications in sports. A lot of stuff here has upgraded a lot to the point I cannot fathom what's new in the first place. Although Boston is small, it's quite extraordinary that they're starting to upgrade things with my batch being not here anymore as I am already in college currently. Although it's quite nice seeing Boston getting innovated again. The school is so overwhelming, I cannot acknowledge what is going on here anymore. So far, I'm not here. It's getting more decent.
Uy,
Ito kayo. Back here in Boston.
di ba kailangan mo yan niya? Di ba?
As we further ride the motorcycle, we're going next to Tawilon Street, where the survivors from Baguio Pablo settled their residence over there. Now, after the Typhoon Pablo around 2012, it decimated a lot from villages and small houses, especially near to the seawalls. After that, most of the people, residents that are survivors, move up to Tawilon to settle there.
Ya, atras na kaya. Ya. Oh.
There are some crazy people living in this area. Dali lang. Sumili kita, kaya mo?
Ano ba?
Ito, tabi. Tabi lang yun. Sumili kita.
Ano? Dongan to.
At ito tayo taas.
Wala ka rin yan.
Dokumentary gani.
Wala siya. Ano ba?
Wala, ang yung video lang ko yung tawilon.
Oh.
Gabi ng Boston na. Ganahit nga yung kabakakan. Here is one of the most infamous areas where people spend the time to have a vacation and take a bath together. And this is Ponta, a rocky coast made of seawater, and few people always go here to take a bath together or to go for a swim. We start to go further up to the Tawilon Street to go see how big Boston really is. Now around these parts are my residence of my old colleagues that is still living here, of course. And above Tawilon is kinda rocky place back in the day until now, which is getting innovated and continuously up and throughout the years, that even I myself is quite shocked of the new buildings that are constructed within this area. Hanap kita ng view. Uunan lang.
Mga eh, so ilang pansin na yung maglang ka ng college, bahala din sila doon isipin mo. O pa sa ibo. Kain kita mga katusang unahan ni Gede.
Adila.
Ano da?
Oh. We now then go back to visit my grandma who saw everything of the Boston's creation and a small part of memory of history itself. Now about my grandma, she's kinda often strict, however a lovable person. She's quite old and very aware what's going on in here in Boston, especially around 1970s to 80s, and knowing so far about the experiences and the culture here in Boston, the fact that it was still underdeveloped until the historical research I did later on in the video will be discussed. As you can see, A quite beautiful view in the beachhead near here in the coastline in the seawall itself. We can see all the previous landmarks and buildings such as the barangay hall, the court, the park, and most of all, the school itself.
Ay, kita siwal kita doon.
Wan, mamay.
Di ba nga, doon maagihan. Ano doon?
Pira?
Masan?
Pira?
Ini straight na.
Okay. Now, my grandma is technically old, like around 80 years old or more, or was it probably 60? But the most important thing here is that she knew a lot about Boston's creation, as born around in the early 19th century, around 1950s or was it 40s, witnessing particularly Marcus martial law, People's Revolution, and other more, especially occurring here in Boston itself.
Siniling na.
We are finally near to my grandma's place and her store and finally arrive in the area.
Pagabot namin nga ni Boston year 1977. Tapos wa pay kalsada, naagya nami, gaagi kami, gikan manay pasid nga ni Boston, isakyan nami, pamplot lang nung una. Hangtod na abot yung panahon ng 1982, wa pay kalsada gihapon sa ana panahon. Igsakay kami ng pambot gihapon pay sudlingig para mga agoy. Doon after ng mga 5 years yata ng 1986 gasugod yagsugod yang pagkuha ng karsada na adida pasingod sa mga agoy gikan nga ni Boston o gikan nga ni Katiin pasingod nga itong mga agoy ito ng karsada sa year 1985 ibali nga 85 bangaon basta kay nga na time uli ang kadiyang mga kuan sundalo kay yang declared ng martial law 1972 abot man na 1985 pagka 86 si declared si yang revolution man si Cory Aquino kay gusto pababaon si Marcos so ihitabo nga sa mga 85 siguro before siyan kuan ay mga sundalo nung una magkaisog ang piamunalan on irip na asawa na may asawa igamit nila pakitong pagadimbana grabe ama sang ka word ba yung nga nalang himo sa una sa 1986 wa pay eskwelahan nga ng high school aon eskwelahan ng high school pero wa pa nga hingan din ng national manang Boston High School lang yata yung dili pa doon na Boston National High School wala ikasulti ko na-experience doon nga ni nang way karsada sa mga panahon tapos mga sundalo sa una abusante ang panahon ng martial law.
After interviewing my grandma of her experiences from Boston, I then conclude for the research of the sources itself to further clarification. Now, while I'm doing the research, I kind of find something interesting in Boston. The fact that it was discovered by a random seaman and mistakenly called it from Bastan, which means cane in the Vovenio, and then translated from Boston itself. Now, this is assumingly my primary sources. My second sources, in the other hand, was the Wikipedia itself, which was originated from the Boston, which is the Boston, Massachusetts, from the colonial period of the American state. After this, I conclude my research that Boston was found from a fisherman until it escalated into the American colony and as named it as the inspiration of the American state, which is Boston, until what we have today. Although the history of Boston is quite interesting, origin of the name, the establishment, the suffering, and other many things of this very own village. And the town itself is quite interesting in this very own story now. My name is Leonoli G. Fanelog, and I'm signing out.